So this episode does a great job of introducing a number of different characters, really perspective hunters, if you will, and ultimately very colorful and very cool.
Hunter x Hunter, Episode 3, Rivals for Survivals.
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on another episode of the wonderful and thrilling and test-driven tale of Hunter x Hunter. The last chapter, of course, saw us with another sort of pre-test, a test before the test, if you will, and ultimately Gon and Kurapika, yeah, and Liario. I got to learn how to roll those R's better. But ultimately, the three of them wound up passing, and then of course we're going to be given a lift to the actual Zaban, I think it is, the city where the exam is taking place. So that's where we left off, and really that's where we pick up. And the animation is real fluid. It's bright. It's vibrant. I like the colors. It doesn't seem like so far that there's any type of drop in quality, as far as things with the frame rates or just some of the standard things that you'll see in anime, where a lot of times you'll see characters that are static, just sort of standing around, or a very static background, or reuse over and over again to make it appear that a character is moving, things like that. There doesn't seem to be a lot of that thus far. So far, I gotta say, I'm definitely impressed and I enjoy it. This particular episode was very neat in the sense that it starts out, and of course they're being led through the city, and just looking and talking to the different shopkeepers and things of that nature, and then they wind up going and coming upon this giant skyscraper of a building, and they're led to believe that this is where the exam takes place, and they're all like, oh wow, this is such a wonderful building, it's so great, look at it, that's why millions come from around the world to take this exam, right? And then they look over and it's actually, they actually have to go into this kind of smaller, regular, sort of dingy-ish looking, if that's even a word, looking restaurant, and they go in and they wind up going in the back, once the secret password's given and such, and they go in the back room, which actually is, there's a table with 3 chairs for them, and Gon goes and sits down, and it's funny because Kurapika and Liario, they go and they say, it winds up being an elevator, and as they're going down, to where the exam is, they're arguing, Liario and Kurapika, they're arguing about, and it's basically, it's the fundamental difference in the way that they think. Liario is like talking about how, pretty much like the Fortune 100 comes out, and then out of the 100 most wealthiest people in the world, at least 50 are always hunters, So it's kind of like people love being a hunter for the fortune and fame and that type of thing, right? And Kurapika, it's the opposite. It's all about it's about saving people. It's about preserving artifacts. It's about it's about knowledge and power. It's it's very much like almost like the Star Trek mentality. It's not about money or anything like that. It's about the exploration and the knowledge that you gain from expanding and learning about new cultures and things like that. So very fundamental differences, but these are the type of things that I see and that I notice and try to pick out. And you look at and then right as they ask Gon what's most important to him or which kind of side he's going to take, all of a sudden they hit level 100. They're 100 floors underground, and the doors open up, and he's like, oh, I think we're here. So he doesn't really have to answer the question. But ultimately, it just shows you what's important to some and what's important to others. There's many people that I'm sure start to do something because they want to do better for people. They want to help others. They want to change the world. And there's others that are just like, you know what? I can make money, and I can have wealth and fame and power from this. So, and I'm not really going to say for or against either one, which one's right or wrong, because it's just it's based on what your morals and values are and what you think, So that's the bottom line with it. Anyway, they get out, they go into this big, and it's of course they're underground, and it's this huge like tunnel-looking thing that they're in, and they're handed a number and 403, 404, and 405 to put on them. So obviously there's several hundred applicants, and you just kind of see it go across this sort of grisly, gnarled-looking bunch, man. You've got some real weird-looking ones that look like they might have escaped the freak show of the circus or something like that, but definitely a kind of a motley crew, so to speak. You see people with sniper rifles and people that look like hunters and everything else. And we're introduced to this character. This he's got on his it almost looks like his team jacket from his high school, and he's this chubbier, heavy-set guy, Tonpa. And he comes and he says that he's a veteran. He's taken the exam 35 times. And I'm like, what? 35 times? If this thing only goes on once a year, dude, what are you, like 50? So anyways, we wind up finding out very quickly from this one as he tries to kind of talk to our trio over here, of Gon and Liario and Kurapika. And he's talking to them and winds up kind of offering them, handing them this juice, right? And then we find out right as they're about to go and drink it, that, he's basically like a trickster, and he just messes with people, screws with people's heads, and he goes and he puts laxative in the juice and basically makes you shit profusely for 3 days. Now, a little side tip for anybody that's ever at like, some sort of party or gathering and that person that you really dislike is there, you take a few drops of, what do you call that? Like Clear Eyes or whatever, like eye drops, and you go and you pop that in somebody's beer or whatever. Same effect. 5 or 6 drops will do it. And like I said, the more you do, the more it messes with their insides and tears them up. But anyway, that's just a little special gym tip over there for you, a little extra that you get with this particular review. But nonetheless, we wind up finding out that this Tonpa character is certainly this trickster, And it's funny because as they're going to take a drink of it, Gon has, obviously we know that he has kind of heightened senses just from what we've seen so far, with his tracking skills in the dark and just everything else. And he goes and takes a taste of it and immediately spits it out and says, "Hey, dude, Tonpa, I think this juice has gone bad." Now none of them know that there's laxatives in the juice, right? But nonetheless, they don't wind up drinking of it. And Tonpa's like, "Oh, sorry," And so we find out a little more about Gon as well. That he obviously has kind of this heightened senses, with certain things, with taste. And he says that he's tried a number of different, fruits and berries and herbs and things like that, and he can kind of just taste when something's gone bad, So then you go and you see a series of other characters that we're introduced to over here. There's this one character that's pretty cool looking, and honestly, truth be told, I actually, for the name just completely escaped me over here. I'll wind up, just putting it up on the screen as I put the review up. But he's this magician guy, and somebody goes and bumps into him, and after he bumps into him, he goes and the guy's arms start like coming off and turning into flower petals, and you just see the guy like sitting down on his knees with like no arms, We wind up finding out that this guy was like a shoo-in to pass the previous year, but he almost killed an examiner for the hunter exams here. So he's obviously back again. They're like, what? They let him back in. They're like, hey, listen, basically it's just it doesn't matter. I mean, because every year it's a different location, it's different examiners, and they're the ones that come up with the content. So the devil himself, they said, they use as an example, could try out for these exams and it would be okay. So, but through a series of kind of quick flashbacks, we're introduced to a few other characters, just some of the colorful characters that there is. There's this one kind of nerdy computer guy that Tonpa tried to pull the juice trick on, and he had already looked him up and saw who he was and that he was this trickster, and he's like, I'm not drinking your juice, but don't worry, I'm not going to tell anybody. Your secret's safe with me, and then we wind up also getting introduced to, and this was kind of cool, we get introduced to this kid with a skateboard. He had this cool kind of spiky whitish gray hair, and his name is Killua, and Killua goes in and he actually had drank the juice, I guess, and he comes up to Tonpa and asks him for another one. He's like, I don't know if I'm nervous or what. And as Tonpa goes and gives it to him, he's having like this inner monologue of like, man, if I give him too much, he'll basically dehydrate himself by just throwing up and shitting so much that he'll dehydrate himself. He could die. And Killua like almost like reads his eyes, his thoughts or whatever, and he's just like, oh, what, are you worried about me being poisoned? He's like, oh, no, don't worry about it. I've built up an immunity to all that. And I just thought that was great. It's like, dude, I straight up knew you put some shit in here. I don't really care. I'm just thirsty because I'm a little nervous, so I'm going to drink this stuff up. So it was kind of cool to see this. We also wind up seeing that Tonpa tried to pull this on this other guy that was like a ninja, and he goes to hand it to him, and the ninja guy says, he goes, no, he goes, I'm a ninja, and basically I just don't drink anything I've gotten in the habit of not drinking anything that's ever offered to me, because obviously poisons and things like that. So anyway, the episode ends up shortly after that. We wind up actually having the examiner for phase 1 that goes and shows up and says, hey, listen, there's 404 applicants, and actually Gon was 405, which kind of threw me off at first, but it says as the episode closes that one applicant's already been disqualified. Now, it didn't say who, and I don't know if this is just sort of a no-name person, because they did flash to a bunch of different ones as Tonpa explained some of the veterans that have come back many times to take this hunter exam. So apparently it's that type of thing where, and they were even talking on the way down that like once every 3 years is the average of when a rookie rookie, a first-time taker of the hunter exam, actually passes. So it's definitely something that's very difficult to pass, or at least that's how it's being made out to be. But anyway, as this examiner shows up, he just pretty much turns around, he greets everybody, turns around and just starts walking with this weird sort of stiff-legged walk where he walks with his legs like putting straight out, you know, almost like he's like marching, but almost like he's like a toy figure that's marching. And he starts marching faster and faster down this underground tunnel hallway that they're in, and everybody has to actually start running to keep up with him, you know. And he just says that he's going to take them to phase 2. Doesn't tell them what phase 1 is all about. They're obviously just in it, and doesn't tell them how they pass or anything like that. His job is just to take them to phase 2. So you get a little bit of talk amongst Gon and Liario, and Liario is like, you know, I presume that it's, he assumes that it's an endurance test, you know what I mean? Which would make sense, obviously. You know, hey, I'm going faster, you guys got to follow me. Let's see who actually has some endurance, and the ones that drop out will automatically kind of thin out the herd for the people that can't, that just can't keep up. So, but as I said, it was neat because you saw a number of different characters, ones that had rookies, ones that had taken the test several times before. And I'm not sure how many of these are going to play into the actual story, but it's certainly exciting to see so many different characters and really to kind of wrap your mind around all of it. So that the Kilowatt character, for some reason, that's kind of sticking with me too. I kind of like the immunity with the poison and everything that he built up, and then that magician fella as well. That's just, I guess everybody hates him. He's just kind of a real bastard. But so I can definitely see him kind of being an antagonist throughout this exam. But anyway, so the episode ends up right over there as they're all kind of, you know, speeding up and going to, and they talk about, and then there's like the narrator that's talking about the 404 participants. One's already been disqualified, and again, I'm just kind of waiting to see who that is. So my episode question for you is, because ultimately, like I said, I love this stuff, man. I'm getting into it. I'm gonna finish this up. I'm gonna watch another episode. Ultimately, my episode question for you is what were your thoughts on some of the different character introductions that we saw in this episode so far? Some of these other prospective hunters. What are your thoughts on them? Leave the answer to that question in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
Well, the Hooters don't lie, and the Hooters tell you to go over to my Facebook and Instagram page for more.